Coming up this week, does the Canadian economy hold your confidence? Also, are free trade agreements good or bad for Canada? This and much more to come. Hitting the streets, this is Outburst. Hello and welcome to Outburst. I'm Glenn McGuinness. Well, Canada's economy has been shaky in the recent past, largely due to the drop in oil prices. But the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD for short, predicts Canada's economy will grow 2.4% this year. So we set out with this question: how confident are you in the Canadian economy?
Moderately confident.
Tell me why.
Well, I think things are getting better with the new government that we have. Seems like jobs are going up. It sounds like the economy is doing well. Stock market's doing well. So hopefully in the future things will get better.
I think my confidence in the Canadian economy has to be in relation to my place in it. I'm somewhat confident in it. I feel that there's always stimulation being placed in one part or another of the economy, and I feel that the current administration is putting stimulation in an area where there is a value back to myself and the sectors that I work in. So for the time being, that's great. I do have concerns about what we're borrowing against for the future with a lot of this stimulation.
I guess it kind of depends to a degree, like always, what happens south of the border too, right? So, I mean, as long as things are going okay down there and Trump doesn't roll us right off the edge, you know, I think should be pretty good here too, I would say.
The whole banking meltdown that happened in the United States, Canada weathered very well because we had the right checks and balances in place. I think, I'm not at all worried. The big unknown is what's going to happen in the United States, but I think Canada, we're doing more than fine.
Not very.
Why?
The Liberal government, I feel, is not doing a good enough job.
In what sense?
Expectations, the deficit and the health care. There's not enough money going in. So.
Until we see the administration down south take more of a formal shape, I would say I'm a bit doubtful that it's going to pick up much, because I have doubts in the American economy, and we're too tied to that right now still.
So you're saying if you think the American economy suffers any kind of issues or problems, we're going to suffer too?
Yes, because we're amassing a rather large debt, which I won't be alive to pay off, but somebody will, and that does have problems, and interest rates are going to rise sometime. If I knew when, I would be rich. So that's going to cost more.
How confident am I in the Canadian economy? I say fairly confident.
Why?
I trust people that are in place, that are doing things, and I think for the most part, Canadians are fairly sensible and reasonable. There's no reason for me to think otherwise.
I'm pretty confident. I think we had enough of a wake-up call from the lowering gas prices that we're kind of looking into diversifying a lot more is something we need to be doing now, as opposed to as long as we do it in the near future we'll be okay. I think that was obviously, it was terrible for the economy right now, but I think it was a wake-up call we needed to start diversifying before it's too late.
How confident? I think I have mixed feelings about it. I am actually a business major at Memorial, but I'm also a student activist. So I think a big problem with a lot of our government systems and a lot of economies, it's that profits over people. And I think that can be a problem, because when you emancipate your people and support them, you'll also have a flourishing economy. So right now in Newfoundland and Labrador, we've seen an extremely awful regressive budget. And I recognize the government is in a lot of debt, but a lot of what they're doing is cutting jobs and financial services, which are impoverishing people further, which means in a way they're going to be even further dependent on government support. So if we can stimulate the economy and then go from there, then folks will be purchasing things, will still be employed, will still be contributing back. So I think that is my kind of a qualm right now with the way the economy is going. I think we need to make sure that we continue to support our citizens and not just in the interest of capitalist corporations.
There's always going to be people who cut, governments who cut, and then governments who spend. I think it comes in ebbs and flows. And right now I think our economy it's doing okay. It's not the greatest because of oil. Minerals are down, but everything is starting to rebound. Like I said, it all comes in ebbs and flows. So we should be all right.
Well, for the industry that I want to go into, I'm very confident for forestry because we got a lot of trees here. So, so I'm pretty confident for myself. But for a lot of people I know, like my brother, for example, he's going to graduate with a business degree this year, and he's looking for jobs already, and he has no idea what he's going to do. So,
a few years from now, I'll be graduated, and so the situation could really change. So, in terms of how confident am I, you never really know. You never really know. At this point, I would say, I guess I don't really know because of the various factors in play. But again, it depends on who else, who do you know as well in the workforce, your connections, things like that. So, it's definitely a lot of variables. So, no conclusive answer for you.
Strong country we have here. If we deal with the natural resources that we've been so blessed to have and start, using them accordingly, and we'll do good. It's a good country.
Who is Canada's Minister of Health? Jane Philpott, Carolyn Bennett, Bill Morneau. Philpott, Bennett, or Morneau?
I'll say Bennett.
Philpott.
Carolyn Bennett. Wrong.
It's Morneau, isn't it? Philpott.
It is Jane Philpott.
Oh, it is? Okay. Great guess.
The Honourable Jane Philpott was appointed Minister of Health on November 4th, 2015. A good portion of your hard-earned money, of course, goes to taxes. But where or how the federal government spends your cash is something many Canadians take a great interest in. So we took to the streets to ask Canadians where they think that money should go. Our question: how would you like to see the federal government invest your tax dollars?
I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer. I would like to think more long-term than short-term when it comes to how we're spending our money. I don't think it's only about how much is being spent where, but how it's being spent. Some of my concerns for the long-term are the stability of our national healthcare system. That's a big concern for me. I also think that having a long-term vision for the stability of other kind of social safety nets that we have in this country, such as CPP, those things are of concerns in the long term. In the short term, I think it's important to make sure that we address. I think the previous administration spent a lot of money in the tar sands and the oil sands, and I think it was important at the time, but if you invest that much money anywhere, you'll get a return on your investment, and I'd like to see that invested in green energy.
Well, I think in some pretty important programs like health, public safety, things that we've kind of gotten away from, especially the health area. With the aging population, I think hospitals and medical services need to be upgraded.
For me personally, I think we talk a lot about climate change, but I think transit's the key to that. We have to totally change how we live and operate, and as a society, living closer to transit for one thing. Trying to make healthier communities in every way, more walkable, better cycling facilities, better transit, how we built homes. To me, I think that it wouldn't take care of everything, obviously, but I think it would help to take care of quite a few different issues in Canada. So.
Healthcare is important to me. International development is important to me. I think we are well past the time of increasing our foreign aid budget. Those I think would be my two biggies, and the environment. I think it's important to actually fund mechanisms to tackle climate change.
Well, definitely for our education system needs more input as well, in the healthcare system. That's and social services as well. That's the main cost, I guess. But definitely our health, because the population is getting older. Our education, as you know, the classroom sizes are too big, so it need to be broken down some. With a lot of special needs kids now. I mean, I can appreciate the teachers what they have to do these days. It's like a social worker, care worker, truant officer. So it's not just about teaching. But I'd like to see more go into the teaching, health and welfare as well, because we're all getting older. So I see a half-decent system in place.
For more economic opportunities for education and, for just getting the word out there for people to find the jobs, that if there are jobs available, so let's get it known. Let's not keep it a big secret. If there's a job available, let's get it out there and let people know that it's happening.
First of all, I would invest them on better health care for seniors and people with disabilities. And I would also like them to see improve education, because I think education is good for the future of our country.
I would like to see more of my tax money going towards, I guess being from Newfoundland, infrastructure would be pretty huge, because I'm pretty sure I drove in a pothole a couple times yesterday that could have done some significant damage to my car, but that's a pretty selfish reason. But I guess I'd just like to see some more transparency there, and I think that the people in federal government level are a lot more qualified than me to make those sort of decisions.
I like to see them invest it back into us and not necessarily into other countries. I love the idea of kind of the openness that we have towards our own people and to the diversity that we have in Canada, but I believe that our tax dollars should go towards that diverse population in Canada. And I believe that we should try to work towards better infrastructure, better systems of education, more high quality education. We should work towards a better healthcare system, and we should definitely be working on things like infrastructure and education and healthcare. We should be working on kind of just that on us, right? It should be on the population in Canada, in my opinion.
More access to women's health clinics. I think that's very limited in Canada. We are very dispersely populated, and in Newfoundland and Labrador, women's health clinics, I believe there's only 2 places if you do need to see further help in the essence of something like an abortion or even other cervical screenings. There's very few places that has access, and that's a huge detriment to women's ability to participate if they're not healthy. So I would love to see my tax dollars put back into supporting social services and stimulating small economies such as local businesses.
Even if we just got rid of the interest on the Canadian student loan portion of student loans, I think that would be a big help to new and young families starting out. Another thing I'd like to see is help with more refugees. I've met some wonderful people who have been in the past who Canada's taken in. One of my best friends, his beautiful wife is a former refugee. She's a Canadian citizen now, and it's these people that are glad to be here that we need to invest in these people as they're part of our future as well.
Who served the shortest tenure as Prime Minister in Canadian history? Sir Charles Tupper, John Turner, Kim Campbell.
Kim Campbell.
Kim Campbell. Turner?
Kim Campbell.
Tupper?
It is Sir Charles Tupper. Very good. Sir Charles Tupper was Prime Minister of Canada from May 1st to July 8th, 1896, a total of 68 days. He also led Nova Scotia into Confederation as Premier from 1864 to 1867. For many, the challenge of post-secondary education becomes even more difficult with high tuition costs, and many looking to obtain a university degree or college diploma could wind up saddled in debt. So we took to the streets to get your feedback. Our question: how could post-secondary education become more affordable?
I guess people should be really looking to Newfoundland for that, because we're doing a pretty good job of it here. But I think if Like, if you look at the return that comes from it, I know I need to keep talking about that, like a bit of a broken record here, but if you look at the return that we're getting on people that are coming to Newfoundland for the degrees and then putting their money back into the economy from the jobs that they're getting out of their post-secondary degrees, I think the return ends up being pretty good over the lifetime. Like, so it is a lot of money. It's 80% funded by the government here, which is a huge number for a lot of people, especially from people outside of Newfoundland. But I think the return you see on it for the country and for the province, it ends up being worthwhile. And other than that, I guess just look at a lot of professors here are kind of taking it upon themselves to make their own literature available and not having to go through some of the textbooks, which can be as pricey as some of the courses here themselves. So you can see textbooks if you're getting the official licensed ones, and some of the online assignments that can be upwards of $200-300, which gets up to be similar to the price of the course itself. So if you're seeing professors move towards some of their own literature and making it available for students, then I think that's definitely a way to keep education costs down.
So to begin, one place that Canada lacks is we don't have a federal minister for education. A lot of other industrialized and Western countries do have this, so there's not a centralized, streamlined approach to supporting and funding education, post-secondary education in Canada. Right now it's up to each jurisdiction and each province and territory, so that would be the first place to start. And then eventually I'd like to see education be free for all, because it should be based on merit, intelligence, drive, and motivation, and not just on how much money we come from or have in our pockets.
You know, if a university finds that its budget is too bad, eliminating some of the degrees that have no real life experience or job applications is maybe a way they should start looking at things.
So in Nova Scotia, I will probably get stomped on for saying this, but there might be too many post-secondary educational institutions that are being supported by government. And maybe the government should take a good look at which educational institutions should be supported and how much from government and how much should be privately owned educational institutions to try and consolidate our resources in that way. I do agree that the student loan program is quite good and it does work. And everyone has student loan. I think it's part of the experience. I actually do not believe that we should have free education, because I do believe that there should be investment by the person who is investing in the service up front. So I think the student loan program works on that level very well. I think there probably could be looked at a little bit more better equalization between the provinces, so there's not competition between the provinces in terms of tuition and vying for students between provinces. That's not where we should be looking to compete with. We should be competing with maybe other countries to attract students, but not necessarily amongst ourselves as different provinces. So a little bit of consolidation.
Oh, that's a really good question, too. You know, I see my own kids, and they have a huge debt because they wanted to better themselves and educate themselves, and I wasn't able to help them as much as I would have liked to. So I think we need to come up with a system that makes it more affordable, and so that not only the elite are attending university and getting further ahead, because it really creates this dichotomy whereby some people are kind of giving up the hope to progress, educate themselves, be better for it, just because they won't be able to afford it. So we need to think about how we can make it more affordable. Certainly in Halifax, we know that we have some of the highest tuitions throughout the country, and that's just not fair. So I don't know how we're going to, you know, maybe some focus groups, some ideas from the public, not too extreme, because then they just won't be accepted. But we really do need to make education affordable for everybody for our future.
I think by enhancing the student aid program, absolutely. I think that we need to invest in youth and our citizens, and I think in the end it will pay off. Long-term gain for short-term pain. Absolutely. Completely support that.
Grants, more grants by the government. I don't really know much about Nova Scotia's grants, but in Ontario we recently just passed a grant that if you're making under $20,000 a year, they pay for your education. So that's one step towards it. And then, yeah, obviously just working towards lowering tuition in general.
I think it'd become more affordable if university budgets were a bit better allocated in terms of, you know, their expenses and what would be needed. So better planning, basic things like that. I mean, there is some controversy in certain programs that tuition prices are being raised, and some people might argue that it's not justified enough. So maybe just being able to justify university budgets, just being able to justify their setting their prices, and it could result in better impacts for student tuition and just overall I guess, quality of student life.
The government pays for it. And if you maintain like a certain GPA, then you don't have to pay it back. But if you fail out, then you have to pay the money back.
I think that's a great plan. I agree with it 100%. Make the government pay for it. You have to maintain a certain GPA. It makes sense.
These days, the topic of trade is definitely a hot-button issue. Roughly 75% of Canada's exports go to the U.S. And of course, President Donald Trump has stated repeatedly that he plans to renegotiate NAFTA. But over the years here in Canada, many people have applauded free trade, while others feel it's not all it's cracked up to be. So what do you think? Our question. Are free trade agreements good or bad for Canada?
I think they're good. I think it creates jobs. I think the markets are the way the economies are going. Everything is more open. We don't need the duties and extra taxes to pay especially for individuals. So I think it's a good thing.
They're both. You can't typify them as one or the other. We're working in a global economy now, so we need free trade agreements, but we need free trade agreements that benefit Canada when you look at the whole. There will be some jobs that will be exported out of Canada, but again, this is part of like a bigger picture. I'd like to see Canada take its position as a knowledge economy. We have the ability to do that, but we're still operating as a resource-based economy, and in the long term, that's not going to benefit Canada. We have one of the highest educated populations in the world, and we're not taking full advantage of that here.
I think overall they're good. What I would like to see a little bit more, though, is trade tied in with social justice to a point. I know every country has their own sovereignty, but for instance, like NAFTA down in Mexico, I think there's many human rights abuses that are taking place, for instance, and we don't have to go to Afghanistan or to Iraq to see human rights abuses. We can, within our own country even, but especially like, for instance, Mexico, I think we could try and use our influence a little bit more that way to maybe help to bring about social justice a little bit more in the world. So
I have nothing against free trade. I think it's been good for Canada, and I don't think we need to shut down our borders at all. And hopefully, whatever's going to be happening with the Canada-U.S.-Mexico deal will still be good for all three countries.
I think they're good.
Why?
Trade is good. It's good to build good relationships with your allies, and I think it'll make a stronger economy.
It certainly hadn't hurt us. We've had a decent standard of living, but all things change. The NAFTA is 25 years old now? All things need to be tweaked, but it depends how good you are at negotiating, and there's always going to be a trade-off. Some industry isn't going to come out good. Hopefully the bulk will come out good, but someone's always going to get hurt.
It depends how you look at it. I think that, it really depends. I'm not so sure about the Trans-Pacific one, but NAFTA's worked pretty well. Outside perhaps softwood lumber, those types of things, but someone who's fond of economics, I wouldn't say that I'm pro trade deals, but I definitely see the benefits in them. Yeah.
I think that free trade agreements are important for everyone. For Canada specifically, obviously we need some money, so that would be better if we could get some money for it. But then again, for the economy of the world and for helping the world, we all need to work together. Everyone, what is the top 1% of Canada? The top 1% is what, $30,000 right now in the world, and that's just the average that a Canadian makes, and not even, it's so much lower. And I think that free trade is good to an extent. Obviously, if we're just giving stuff away, that's not the best, but I do believe that free trade is important until economies can support themselves a little more, which probably isn't going to be anytime soon, but I agree with it.
Well, I mean, it depends on how much free trade is bringing into the country, really. I'm not quite sure about export and import statistics. I'm not an economist, but you know, if our exports are bringing us in money, then yeah, I mean, it'd be a good thing. And you know, if the result of free trade is that such that we're losing money, or that, you know, we could make more if there was no free trade between nations, then I think obviously it's a bad thing. So it's just a matter of looking at, just analyzing the data and then seeing what's working and not.
It's hard to kind of paint it all with broad strokes because they're all really come down to the individual agreements, but I think generally they are beneficial to Canada because our trade is one of our main incomes right now.
I wish I had a yes or no answer. I think I have mixed feelings about them. In a way, globalization has contributed so much to our economy. There are many goods and products and produce that we would not have unless we engaged in trade. But at the same time, I think with that said, a lot of corporations or government or organizations are looking to cut costs and drive up revenue in a very lucrative world climate. So with that said, I see a lot of job loss. We've seen this over decades. A lot of local jobs and manufacturing jobs and service jobs being lost in Canada and outsourced to other countries that have a lower paid wage. So as a result, I think that's negatively impacted our economy as well. So I think I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's great as long as we can make sure that there is more jobs still kept and created in Canada.
I think that they've been fairly positive for Canada in the past. It helps our manufacturing. It helps forestry. So yeah, I think that free trade agreements have in the past been good for Canada. That we just need to make sure that they're still good for Canada, and any new free trade agreements that are being negotiated, you know, they need to be negotiated in the best possible way for us and for our future generations.
What is Canada's oldest national park? Wood Buffalo, which is in Alberta and Northwest Territories, Banff, which is in Alberta, or Pacific Rim on Vancouver Island. Wood Buffalo, Banff, Pacific Rim.
I'm completely guessing here, but Wood Buffalo.
I'm just gonna guess Banff.
Pacific Rim.
Banff.
I'm going to say Banff.
It is Banff.
There we go, 1 out of 3.
You did well.
Okay.
Established in 1885, Alberta's Banff National Park is Canada's first and oldest national park. That's all for this episode of Outburst. Like what you see? Well, you can watch more episodes on our website at www.cpac.ca, on our CPAC TV to go app, as well as our YouTube channel. You can also join the conversation via social media on Twitter and Instagram at CPAC_TV. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of all my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.